So welcome everybody to Making the Familiar Strange. We're here at the Tri-Faith Unity Garden. The Hope Orchard is over there. This is an experiment of doing like a little field trip, so please bear with us if we have any technical difficulties. But I practiced last week and everything went smoothly, so this should be fairly easy. I don't know if we'll take up the full hour, partly because of my battery life, but we'll do the best we can. And today we have Jennifer Farhat and Courtney Wilder and Andrea, who's an Avidorian, who's joining us here in person. Plus we have an audience of some other garden workers and volunteers here as well. So we'll get to them in just a bit. The goal of Making the Familiar Strange began with the study of Abrahamic scriptural stories alongside each other and to encourage perspective taking by looking at familiar stories from new points of view. We're branching out a little bit, but it's still this idea of coming together from different perspectives and having a good conversation. And as always, be respectful if possible. I don't think there's going to be a great deal of controversy in this topic, but challenge your own assumptions, speak from your own point of view, and be open to new perspectives. And just some announcements. Sunday, September 10th is our United We Walk here at Tri-Faith Commons from 3 to 6. Our next Making the Familiar Strange will be Tuesday, September 19th with Sandra Squires talking about Lectio Divina, which is a way of kind of meditating on scripture. And that can be used for any faith background. And then we have our next Coffee on the Commons on Thursday, September 21st. And I think that is all. Let me stop sharing my screen. And so what we're going to do today is I'm going to have a few questions to ask Courtney and Jennifer. And if Andrea wants to join in, she's welcome as well, but she might just be listening. And then we're going to do, if anybody has any questions at that point, or we'll do questions at the end. And then we'll take a little tour of the garden. So welcome to Jennifer and Courtney. Do you have anything you would like to say? Introduce yourself.
Sure. My name is Jennifer Farhat. I was born and raised in Omaha, but I've spent much of my adult life in Dubai. Recently moved back. I worked for OPS for a few years. And now I'm working at the Montessori Co-op part-time and really enjoying that. And yeah, I'm a volunteer here. Great. Go ahead, Courtney.
I'm Courtney Wilder, and I have lived in the Omaha area about 15 years, and I teach at Midland University out in Fremont. And we have a religion and philosophy department of one, and that one is me. And I have been a volunteer here in the garden since I think about April of this year. So I'm new, but enthusiastic.
Excellent. So how did you two get into gardening?
Yeah, that's an interesting thought. You sent me this question before, and I spent a little time thinking about it. And I was really thinking about, at this point in my life, I'm about 60, getting close to 60 anyway, and how things have changed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in that time, I think most people of my age would say that we're only maybe 1 or 2 generations from the farm.
Right.
So when I was young, it was not unusual to go visit somebody that still lived on a farm. And in my backyard, my dad was always growing strawberries and tomatoes because he had been raised on a farm. And, that was just a part of my life. And I think with every successive generation, we're getting further and further away from that. And I think it's important for younger people and children to really understand that connection, to come back to that a little bit. And I see a lot of I see Hope Garden and just a lot of other things that younger people are starting, and this initiative that is really helping with that, I think.
Great, thank you.
I started gardening as a toddler. I got my own little bed of pansies to incentivize me to pick those rather than the neighbor's flowers.
Nice.
I got a mutual solution. But I also come from a family with gardening in the immediate background and homesteading a little bit before that. I grew up in Montana. So some of my earliest memories are of my grandmother in her garden. She loved gladiolus. And my grandfather, who had a stroke and then retired and then continued the garden and continued to do woodworking. And I've only learned or realized now as an adult looking back at photos that he made his garden so that he could navigate it with a walker. And he did his gardening from benches that he made himself in his woodworking
Wow.
shop. So he had lost some use of his arms and had some mobility issues, but still I have these great memories of him growing iris and composting, and really that was a deep source of pleasure for him. So I feel like I was lucky enough to inherit that as a practice.
Lovely. Oh, lovely. Did you have anything you wanted to add?
I am not a gardener per se. I know that my background comes from agricultural people. And so farming has been my grandparents. And my mother tried a little bit, not so much the vegetables, but she always had loved pansies. And I remember her digging out in the backyard with her flower garden. And then we moved to Palm Springs, and it's arid and it's dry, and you don't grow pansies there or much of anything.
Yeah.
And flowers, a lot of cactus, that kind of thing. And I just, I tried it a few times. It's just, I killed more than I grew.
Yeah.
But I love this. I love the work that's being done here at Tri-Fatih Garden. It has a spiritual connection to me, and the abundance it showed that Mother Earth is just feeding us all that we can eat. And there's an abundance. And I just applaud the people who volunteer here. I live across the street at Avador, so easy for me to come.
Yeah.
Applaud that in little ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a reminder to everybody watching out there that you're welcome to volunteer. Just let us know. There's a volunteer form on our website. So the next question is, what brought you to Tri-Faith?
I lived here before. My husband, I don't remember if I mentioned, he's Palestinian. And when I was a young adult, we decided to move to Dubai. We wanted to live abroad. It was something I really wanted. And we lived there for quite a long time. But we stayed in contact. We came back and forth. And as part of that experience, I was hearing about the Tri-Faith coming. And I was very interested. I really thought it was just a great initiative and something that I really wanted to support. So there was a time where I said, it's time. I want to go home. I miss my family. I miss my people. And in coming back, I felt a little isolated. I didn't have that friend group anymore. And I felt like I needed that. And in making friends, I really thought I want to meet people that believe what I believe, that can really get behind some of the, my social conscious, what I think is important.
Yeah.
And I came to one of the Tri-Faith events, and while I'm reading, I can't remember if it was online or a pamphlet that was handed to me, I said, these are beautiful things. Why am I not doing this? This is what I need. This is what will feed my soul. And that's how it began for me. Yeah.
So my experience with the Tri-Faith community, I'm not a member of any of the congregations, but has always equally been very, very positive. I brought students and I participated in some events. But I also had the experience of feeling a little isolated. So COVID was hard. And the loss of interpersonal connection with students and with colleagues was hard, and feeling sometimes out of step with other people's safety practices. We were pretty conservative and pretty careful. That was hard. And we moved. I bought a house with my partner in 2021 and had done a lot of gardening, and then started a new garden and thought, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know enough about what I'm doing. And I thought, okay, so I need some garden time. And I was a little isolated and a little lonely. And it was such a blessing to come. And to be the recipient of the organizing labor here at the gardens. So people absolutely should come. I just like to read. So I came thinking, I would just read, and I didn't appreciate.
And I love to water, so there you go.
You water the weeds, but I didn't appreciate how much care had gone into creating that infrastructure for people to make friends and to reflect on conversations with one another. And now one of God's creatures,
Yep.
the grasshopper, has grown up.
Another friend.
I didn't understand how much work
Yeah.
had gone into creating the space, and I'm had to just see that unfolding and learn some of those lessons,
Yeah.
as well as how to plant okra.
There's a lot of okra here.
You know, just, I want to say that, you know, that I really, I agree with what you're saying. And I think that, I think I've forgotten what I was going to say. It's there, but now it's gone.
Yeah.
Did you have anything to add to that?
And my next question, which you pretty much both answered, was like, why did you start volunteering? But I think you answered that.
I
very
remember
nicely.
what I was going to say, because I think it's, sometimes it takes a minute.
Yep.
One of the greatest things about being a volunteer here is the people that really do all that infrastructure always make you feel like you're welcome.
Mhm.
Like you come here and then you get busy for a few weeks and you feel like shy to come back, and you're like, well, you know, I'm not a very good volunteer. And every time you come, they're like, even if you stop in and just have a talk with us,
Yeah.
we're happy to see you. And that, you know, so that, you know, when you need them, you can feel free to come. You don't have to feel, you know, like you're letting people down. They're just always happy to have you there. That's really what
I guess the only thing I would add is, as I'm walking through the garden, somebody might be struggling with one little thing, just to have that extra pair of hands. I'll hold this while you do that. It all makes you feel a part of what's happening here, even though I'm not avidly on my knees pulling weeds. I used to water more, but now you have that irrigation.
Which is nice.
Yeah, it is. It's
It
really,
does,
really
it
amazing.
does.
And I just want to note, one of the things I've noticed is that there are volunteers from all walks of life, and lots of folks are not at a stage where they want to be down on their knees reading, right? So there's something anyone can do.
Absolutely.
If it's picking beans or admiring things or
Washing
picking
the
bugs or
vegetables,
Yeah.
getting them ready for
Yeah.
packaging, yes.
taking things to be delivered.
Yeah.
There's some activity for anyone who wants to come and participate.
Or
And
just
so-
chat.
Yeah.
You guys learn.
Stop in and chat with
Yeah.
people. They're happy with that too.
That's
They're a very sweet bunch.
yeah. I need to come and just like absorb all the knowledge from my poor garden at home.
Same.
So how would you say that working here in the garden reflects your faith tradition, whatever they might be, or no faith tradition? That's also fine. as well.
I think that all the Abrahamic faith, and even wider, I mean, I think that's one of the reasons that we have religion in general, is that idea of community, of giving to others. And somebody once told me something silly about, well, when people give, they're just giving for themselves, or if they volunteer. And you're like, what attitude is that?
Yeah.
Because it for me, it is that circle that they are giving to me by
Yeah.
letting me come and be a part of this. This is that,
Yeah.
that community building. It's good for me. It's good for those that we give to.
Right.
I shouldn't feel superior for giving because I am
Right.
receiving at the same time.
Yeah.
And that for me is really something. Yeah. Yeah. Great.
I like what you said about the circle.
Yeah.
The Lakota people have the hoop. If you're in the hoop, you're part of a community, and a circle has no beginning or end. And so whatever you give comes back. It's more than karma. It's way more than that.
Mhm.
It's a feeling of belonging.
Yeah.
Responsible to and for each other. And that's what I feel like here. Native American culture talks a lot about that circle and how important it is to be a part of a circle.
Isn't that interesting, right? The Native American tradition, the faiths of the people of the Tri-Faith. And I know a lot of people that are maybe agnostic or spiritual in another way, or belong to another religion. We all share that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my training is in Christian theology, and I'm a practicing Lutheran. And I was thinking as I was driving here, I should have checked to see if this is real or just a possible. But there's a saying, like a little story
Yeah.
about Martin Luther problematic figure, but useful in this instance.
it's fine.
That someone asked him, if you knew the world was ending tomorrow, what would you do? And he said, I would plant an apple tree. And I think that the places in scripture where we see God giving instructions to people and teaching them how to care for themselves and care for their community so often involve literally give food to other people, right? Cultivate the land, have enough for yourself and your family, and give more to those who don't have enough, right? It seems like the very most kind of basic human relationship with your surroundings to nurture yourself and nurture your family and nurture the community around you. Even when it does not seem very, like the context of the world does not always seem very helpful. That the act of being able to turn some of your effort in a very clear material way to meeting the needs of other people, that is a gift, right? And so it's not charity, right? The idea that the garden is a donation garden is really important, right? It's going to feed people who would not otherwise have that food, or they'd it's a supplement to their food budget, and super important, right? It's not just for beauty or for pleasure, but the opportunity to hear that call and to remember what you're about as a creature, and to engage with others in community in activity that helps to nurture other people, is something anyone could do, but also a very, very deep.
Well, I was thinking too about just, in the Genesis creation story, life begins in a garden, and that being significant. And then in my Bible knowledge is not great right now, but the story of them being in exile in Babylon, and God calls them to plant a garden, like, you're going to be here for a while. Plant a garden, and make a new home. Like, it's not your permanent home. Yes, you're still in exile, but kind of make the best of it where you are. And I think that's just an important lesson of not only the sustaining of food, but also building community in a new place. So
the word charity, and I think our first impression is, well, I have more than I need. I'll be charitable and give you my leftovers. But the true meaning of charity really is pure love. And so it goes much deeper than just giving you something. I give you my spirit. I give you a part of who I am. I share who I am with you. And that feeling goes back to the hoop, and we all belong in this hoop. The hoop cannot be broken. You guard that hoop with your very lives sometimes, especially with my Native American heritage, knowing that holding on to that community was more important to us than anything else that we were doing. So whatever we were motivated by, it was keep the hoop complete. Beautiful.
That is such a beautiful thought. Also, I believe in the Native American tradition and Islam, and I'm sure all faiths, is this idea that we are also caregivers or caretakers of the earth.
Oh, absolutely.
And we kind of are failing that at this point in time. We need to start coming back to taking, and that's a real lesson from the garden, how we can take care of the planet and how that then will take care of us.
Well, I think there was like this, and I don't know when the shift happened of it being like a domination of nature, and now we're starting to realize, like, no, it's a caretaking role. It's cultivating, it's creation care rather than dominion.
Really happened here in this garden. They were having some lessons earlier about the soil itself. Protect the soil because it gives life to the plants that you're trying to nurture. And you leave enough behind so that you have something more coming. You never don't get so greedy that you take more than is necessary.
I'm going to open up and see if anybody has any of our listeners in there. Do you have any? Feel free to jump in. Oh, we got some things in the chat here. Oh, okay. There's some things about volume, but if anybody has anything to say, anybody from Jewish perspectives that you'd like to share, or any other faith traditions, feel free to either say something in the chat or come off mute, speak up. Everybody should be quiet now.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Eileen.
Yep, I hear you, Eileen.
Okay. So when you were talking about, taking care of the land and such, I immediately thought of Genesis and the fact that God actually told man that, you know, this is yours to take care of. And, you know, so it kind of relates all the way back to the very beginning that, you know, we have been tasked with this very important thing to take care of the earth that was created. And we haven't been doing a very good job, but at least in the garden, we all feel very spiritual when we're there because we're taking care of Mother Earth and she's taking care of us. So to me, that's always been very important. Thank you.
Thank you, Eileen.
I think the word reciprocity
Mm.
goes with what she's just saying.
Yeah.
And what you were referring to earlier about giving is not a sacrifice, it's really an honor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True. Yep.
True. I love the way you said that.
Great. Anybody else have anything they want to add? Bonnie,
Should we begin our
anybody
tour?
that you want to add?
No, they've said it
Okay.
all.
Well, now we're going to do a little tour of the garden. I'm going to mute and turn off the camera here and switch to my phone. So just bear with me a moment. I just don't want there to be backup sound here.
It was be nomadic.
Yeah.
Just bear with us a minute. I'm trying to get my phone to
It's
pull this up.
quite
We'll be right with you.
What?
All right. Hi, everybody. Okay. There you go. Okay, that should be work. So now we're going to have them take us around the garden and do a little tour. So thank you for your patience. Yeah.
Go girls. Go, go, I love you.
All right.
Okay, what are we looking at?
We are wherever you guys want to go. What would you like to see? This is the pollinator garden. I'll just sort of repeat back because I don't know how well my phone's going to pick up everything.
Okay.
So speak
Yeah.
up and
If you zoom in, you can see that it's just alive with different insects here. Just a quick walk through. We just saw a swallowtail earlier. Lots of bees. Lots of things. Got a monarch right over there. So yeah. Then I was saying there are some people that would give a lot better tour, but they insisted that we should go around and just point at things and say, I'm pretty sure this is a tomato.
It's
over
better than
here
me
we
getting
have,
my app out and going, what is this?
herb garden. So we got some dill here, and I think that's lemon something. I
Lemon
forget.
balm.
Lemon balm. Thank you. We've got some, basil here and some mint as well, and still have a lot of our bees here. So yeah.
These are happy bees.
If we look over here,
Mhm.
so you can see the trellis.
Uh-huh.
There were peas and beans in these two beds, and now the very little tomatoes have kind of taken over. But we had weeks and weeks and weeks of peas and beans. And
Great.
if you want to get kind of close in, you can see more
Oh,
beans.
yeah.
So every time something comes out, something else goes in.
Excellent. Yeah, the amount of planning that I've seen Kathy's like chart, and that's amazing.
The job they do is incredible.
Yeah.
I think this is a beautiful plant. This
Yes.
is okra, and if you can find some okra in here,
There's a little one.
it's a beautiful red okra. Isn't that
Yeah.
lovely? So pretty. The plant is pretty, and yeah.
I planted the seeds.
And the
with
flowers. I've never seen
that
okra
is
flower.
okra.
Yeah, isn't that
That's
lovely?
gorgeous.
Isn't
Almost
that
like a
lovely?
hibiscus.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And it's the first time I've ever grown something successfully from seed. I mean, I didn't grow.
Right.
I put the seeds in the
Yeah.
ground, and now I get
Nice.
to harvest the okra, and it's kind of fantastic to see that process. It is also so scratchy that it is a
Oh.
real labor of love to harvest. And the okra, the fun part is when you can find one that's really big that someone's overlooked in previous harvest, but it's ideal when it's about thumb size.
Right.
Do they save those big ones for seeds next year? Or?
No, they just go right into
You can
whatever's
cook them.
gonna cook 'em.
In my family, we do have a lot of. My husband loves okra. It's a big Arab
Yeah,
dish. Yeah, fried with tomatoes and garlic, and
Nice.
oh, so nice, so nice. This is a basil plant, but it is Indian.
Amaranth.
And it is actually not. It's not for cooking. It's more, I guess, for burning for an incense kind of thing. Is that
okay.
correct?
I think of it as a Central American grain.
Oh.
So I'm guessing it is something that appears on more than one continent and has more than one. Participated in this, I've only heard and seen the
Interesting.
Ah.
With a lot of their, like gardening starts in the winter. And to have a room in there, they have it all hooked up with lights and everything. They start everything from seed. The tomatoes start way in advance,
Mhm.
and they're
Yeah.
and they're so careful with everyone. I'm such a slap happy.
I know, me too.
I spent one very
Just-
happy lesson on a Sunday. Disentangling little tiny putting them from the
Small ones, no, no, we separate them.
and these are pumpkins that just planted. I think they're like 60 days. Middle of October.
Right.
Wash.
I don't know if there are more pumpkins up there, but I don't.
I thought.
a couple of varieties. And because they get so heavy that the plants actually start to lean over and you kind of have to liberate the plant by using the pepper. And then there's some little baby ones here.
Oh.
They're very hot.
Yeah.
So
So
what are all the
they're like
places
little
that
jewels.
the food goes to? I know the multicultural.
the Intercultural Senior Center.
Okay.
On, like,
Which
15
I think is
Center.
so wonderful. Yeah.
Such a really,
Really?
good
What is that?
organization.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we've lately been partnering with